Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Adam Flint. I'm the Director of Clean Energy Programs here at the Network for a Sustainable Tomorrow, and we're going to be talking about our program HeatSmart Southern Tier, featuring one of our three installer partners. We'll have Jessica from the Insulation Man, together with Pam, who is a client that recently had some work completed, some energy efficiency work on her home. We also have with us today the director of the campaign and the associate director for NEST, Network for a Sustainable Tomorrow, Haley Delisle. And as she just mentioned, please put questions in the chat. And essentially how this is going to work is we'll spend, maybe about 25 minutes presenting regarding what is HeatSmart and a little bit about energy efficiency, and then talk about the job that was done in the city of Binghamton on Pam's home, and then a little bit about financing incentives, and then we'll move to your questions. So about half the time we'll leave set aside for questions. So before we launch into the content, just want to let you know about a couple of webinars that we're having in the new year. This will be our last one for this year today. On Wednesday, the 13th of January, we'll be doing one of our general presentations that features all the technologies that our campaign covers: air source and ground source heat pumps and energy efficiency. And all of our partners, including Jess from the Insulation Man, will be there. And then our final program of this series, certainly not our final program, will be on the 21st, featuring Air Source LLC with a virtual home tour in Oxford, New York, of an install there. The Network for a Sustainable Tomorrow is a nonprofit organization that works with our partners towards social, environmental, and economic justice and equity in our region. We catalyze and convene new initiatives and partnerships and do outreach and education to build a stronger and more resilient Southern Tier. Amongst our energy programs, you see Southern Tier Solar Works. We can also help you connect with a contractor to install solar on site or enroll in a community solar program. And of course, HeatSmart Southern Tier that we're going to be talking about today. So this is, again, our overview of what we're going to do today. HeatSmart Southern Tier is one of, I think, 20 now community campaigns funded through the New York State Energy Research Development Authority, or NYSERDA, that connects you to local heating and cooling and energy efficiency contractors that can do free assessments, and if you choose to get work done, they can do that as well. Our role is to educate the public about sustainable heating and cooling systems. In the old days, we used to do that largely in person. Now, of course, we're doing it this way. And the map you see there represents the coverage that the clean heating and cooling campaigns have of the state. So if it happens that you are not in Broome, Tioga, Shenango, or Delaware counties, fear not. We can refer you to one of the other clean heating and cooling campaigns, and they can help you out closer to home. So the benefits of our program include, obviously, community awareness, as I just mentioned, reduced energy costs, increased home comfort and safety, because when you remove combustion appliances from your home, that is something that can no longer go awry. And as you'll hear, the energy efficiency process is also one that makes your home safer. And obviously, very important, greenhouse gas emissions are reduced. So before I talk about this next slide, I actually want to share a really exciting announcement. Just this morning, the New York State Pension Fund set into motion a divestment process from fossil fuels and other climate unfriendly companies. I cannot stress what a big deal this is. This is the largest pension fund to have put forth a divestment plan that they're going to execute over the next few years that is this comprehensive. And this is going to be sending a very strong signal to other pension funds, other investors, to Wall Street, and everyone that not only is the fossil fuel industry and other related industries damaging to the climate and to our health, but they're also a bad bet financially to invest in. So it's huge news, it's good news. In terms of New York's profile for greenhouse gases, we have a goal to reduce emissions by 80% by 2050. As you can see, buildings make up a third of the greenhouse gas generation in the state. And so by helping folks increase their energy efficiency and move to clean heating and cooling, heat pumps, we can really make a big dent in the building share of that number. And as I mentioned, our program covers weatherization, air and ground source heat pumps, and hot water heaters, heat pump hot water heaters. And these are our competitively selected partners. So in order to become a partner with HeatSmart or any of the other clean heating and cooling campaigns in the state, there's a competitive process, and we look at various criteria, including business practices, the experience working with the technologies, all kinds of different elements. We have support from NYSERDA for this process. And we've chosen AirSource LLC as our AirSource partner in 3 counties, and D&D Refrigeration in Delaware County. Ground source heat pump partner is Daily Geothermal, and the Insulation Man, who you're going to hear from today, is our home performance and efficiency contractor partner. So at this point, I want to turn things over to Jess and Pam, and they're going to walk you through most of the rest of the presentation, and I will be back when it comes time to do Q&A. Jess?
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me. My name is Jess. I work for the Insulation Man. I'm the project facilitator. And, as always, when it comes to assessing your home, the home energy assessment is the first step towards getting that energy efficiency to where it needs to be. So when we're doing a home energy assessment, we walk through both the inside and the outside of the house. We'll test the major mechanicals like, anything that runs off of gas. So if you have a furnace or a boiler that runs off of natural gas, fuel oil, or propane, we'll test that. Same thing with your oven, anything that could, potentially combust in the event of an emergency, we'll look at those. We have a couple different technologies we use as far as diagnostic imaging. We have infrared cameras that we can use to look at the walls. We have blower door testing, which depressurizes the house and gives us an idea of how much air is leaking through. And at the end of it, we will provide the homeowner with an energy report that contains the recommended steps for improving the house. So, Pam, what led you up to calling for a home energy audit?
Okay, hi everyone. I saw the ad in Sunday's paper, and I called, and I spoke with you, Jess, who answered a ton of questions that I had, and we just went on from there.
Good. So for anybody looking at the screen, and we're going to talk about 2 of these major places with Pam today. As you can see by the diagram, you can see the hot air rising and leaving to the attic, and you can also see cold air coming in through the basement, which is, a lot of where your house loses your energy. So, Pam, tell me about the conditions of your attic and your basement before we came in there.
Well, first of all, the house is 100 years old. There was no insulation downstairs. The air came in through all the cracks around the outside, and upstairs there was no insulation at all. It was bad.
Now, what about other areas in your house as far as like maybe your walls? Like, did you feel a lot of cold air that was coming in through those, or coming in around your windows? I know your bathroom was a big problem for a while.
Yes, very big. We had air coming in through the receptacle units, even though when my mom and dad had that area all modernized, the guy, I swear, didn't put insulation in it. And in the wintertime, on a cold, cold day when the wind blew from, I believe, the west, it would get 60 degrees in there. You would really take a quick shower.
Yeah, I could see that. I could definitely see that.
Mhm. It was bad.
All right. Yeah, I believe it. So, benefits of weatherization, it will reduce the amount of energy that your house needs to use throughout the year. Also increases home safety by lowering the risk of fire hazards and outdoor elements from coming in. Also helps improve home comfort, such as reducing drafts. It improves humidity and the indoor air quality. It also reduces the risk of ice dams. So, since we've done the work, have you noticed the difference in like the drafts coming through your house and just the quality of comfort on the inside?
Absolutely, yes. In fact, I just walked into my bathroom right now, and it's very comfortable. And I don't have my heat on. I just have on my little electric fireplace in my living room.
Well, that's definitely an improvement, especially with as cold out as it is today. And, we've got the snow and we've got the wind going. So, I would say that definitely, sounds like it's a lot more comfortable for you.
It is. Even upstairs, I keep my heat upstairs very low, like at 64. And we have 3 units to our furnace. One downstairs in the cellar, one on the main floor, and one upstairs. And that upstairs is very comfortable. Not the attic, but the upstairs.
Right. Yeah, I didn't, when we start going through the pictures, I did not take pictures of the main attic, because I did not want to disturb the integrity of the work, but I do have before and after pictures of the crawl space and your side attics. Now, I know we just did your job. I think it was September we did the work for your house. Have you noticed any kind of change in your utility bill over the last couple months? I know it's been kind of mild and it's, been not very long past we did the work. So have you seen any kind of difference in that yet?
No. Call me in February and I probably will have a better idea. I know they just filled my oil tank yesterday, and they put 120 gallons in, and they probably wondered why I didn't need more. Because when my dad was alive, we would go through every month about $500 worth of oil, and that would run from October until April.
Oh.
I mean, the furnace was constantly running, but he was 85 too, when I moved back home. And then when he went into the nursing home, he was 93 or 94, and he lived to be 100. I would love to have my dad here now on his input on everything going on in our crazy world.
I'm sure he would definitely have some opinions, and I'm right here with you. My dad's not here anymore, and I would definitely love to hear what he has to say about everything going on. So
yes, exactly.
Well, I'm sure your dad is absolutely thrilled that you've gotten some of this work done to your house. So hopefully we can look at that as a little bit of a plus.
Yes, I'm sure he is.
Yep, parents always like to see when the kids are making improvements that they couldn't do. So
Right. Well, he could do it, but it's like a plumber. They never take care of their plumbing at their house, And my dad had a construction business where he put in septics and whatnot, but the house wasn't his top priority. It was the business.
Gotcha.
Mhm.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about the elephant under the floor. And by the elephant, I'm talking about your crawl space. So you can't see the screen because I have you on the call. But I'm looking at, right now we have a picture of what your crawl space looked like before we came in. So can you talk to me a little bit about your crawl space? So I can tell you, for people that are that haven't been in the house, you have one of the most interesting setups I've ever seen in your basement. I mean, I've seen basements where, half the basement will be, partially finished and the other half will be dirt still. But your basement actually opens up to the crawl space.
Yes, and I don't know why. I don't know if my dad had part of that dug out, and they were going to dig it all out, and maybe cement that part. But all I can tell you is that from the time I was a little girl, even to my age now, I hated going down in that cellar. I would look at that crawl space and see snakes coming out of it. It was all dirt. But like I said to you Sunday, Jeff, I never saw a snake. I've seen mice, and I have 15 barn cats out in the barn, and I killed one mouse in the cellar with having all those cats out there. Somebody dropped off a pregnant cat, and they've just multiplied and multiplied. Yeah, you can't warm. I don't
warm and they are safe. So
yeah, with the hay.
Yeah. Now your crawl space is a fairly decent size. From when I was down there on Sunday, it almost looked like your crawl space really makes up about half of your basement level.
Yes. It's from the kitchen. I'm going to say from my kitchen onto the wall where my bedroom is. And I'm telling you, when I first went down there to see what the guys had done, I was shocked. I'm like, oh my God, this is so cool, because they've got it all covered up with that big tarp, and it's all covered up. There's no way anything can get through that.
There you go. For anybody looking at the slides, I apologize. I had to use my flash while I was down taking pictures, so you'll see these two after pictures are going to be a little bit washed out, but it does give you an idea of what was done down there. Now, before we did your crawl space, did you notice a lot of cold air coming up from the floor underneath your kitchen?
Oh, yes. Yes, that kitchen floor was cold.
Now, has that improved since we've been there?
Well, hold on. Absolutely, yes.
Good.
I'm so used to it, walking over it, I don't realize until you just asked me.
Well, I mean, sometimes it takes somebody asking to get you to think about something you haven't thought about before.
Right.
For anybody looking at the pictures, when it came to Pam's crawl space, we rolled out a rubber vapor barrier to cover up the dirt and to also seal in some of the cold air underneath. And we sealed that barrier with spray foam. We also did her walls. You can kind of see over towards the left hand of the picture where the spray foam goes around. So her entire crawl space has been foamed and barriered, and as you've heard from her, it's been, quite an improvement for that. So let's go on to the next slide. All right, so let's talk about this side attic. The side attic, we did your the sill plate, so that way air couldn't leak down in through your walls. We also did the transition wall. So what was your side attic like before we came in there?
No insulation, just open. It was just open without anything in there. So if you threw something in that area, it would go I never did that because I never thought about it really, but I wonder where it would have gone, down in the cellar or just to the main floor.
Right, yeah, especially when they're open walls like that. And, when you have a side attic where, you can see down into the walls, cold air can reach down into those walls and come out through the rest of your house. So, now you can go ahead and go back to the next slide. As you guys can see, we spray foamed her sidewall, or her transition wall. We also did the sill plate. So I know I know there's some roof stuff, but has there been a general improvement in that side attic since we've come through? I mean, 'cause I know your second floor was awful cold before. Your side attic is right there on your second floor, with your main attic being right above it. So with those two areas done, what's the difference like between now and before it was insulated?
Oh, great, a great difference. That's what I said about the heat upstairs. If I turn the heat on to, I'm going to say 68, it would still be cold. And I've got it at 63 or 64 right now. And I just opened up the door that goes upstairs, and it's comfortable. So that was huge, a huge difference.
Now, before the insulation went in, when you went to open up that door leading to upstairs, would you be able to feel the difference between the upstairs and downstairs temperature, like immediately?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Very much so.
Good. All right. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. All right. So let's talk about the incentives and the financing a little bit. I'm going to go over some of the incentives with the customers, and I got just a couple basic questions for you. There is financing available for families that have low to moderate income. These are available for people that need to take out the loan that don't qualify for it. There are a couple different loans that can be utilized. There's a smart energy loan, which you would pay like a traditional loan. You have an on-bill recovery loan, which attaches to your NYSEG meter on the house. There's also the new companion loan out for anybody that is looking for air source heat pumps or ground source heat pump installations in this house. Most of those, the repayment term is about 15 years. So you can go ahead and go to the next slide. All right. So for people in the higher income bracket, there's the Assisted Home Performance Program. And what this is a 50-50 matching grant. They will match dollar for dollar up to $5,000 worth of work to be done. Now, that benefit was raised temporarily for the pandemic and will go back down to $4,000 come January 1st unless we have heard differently. There is increased amounts for multifamily units as well as expanded eligibility for financial income. So, and just like the benefit amount, the income eligibility will also drop down on January 1st. All right, Empower New York. Empower is for homeowners that fall under the 60% mark of the state median income. This is a 100% grant, and they will up to $10,000, which was also increased for the pandemic and to be able to help people, more people that have been affected by not being able to work during everything going on. So Empower right now is currently paying up to $10,000. That will decrease back down to $7,000 on January 1st. And as of just last week, the heat pump adder has been added to that. So, Pam, were you worried at all about financing when you called to have the audit done?
To a degree, because someone said it runs about $30,000 to have that put in your home, and I'm like, well, I'll just continue paying the heating bill because I certainly I don't want to finance $30,000. But after talking with you, I realized that it wasn't. So you don't want to listen to people when they tell you these stories.
Always ask the people that know. So now you fell under the Empower eligibility. How was that process, going through that process for you? As far as, the paperwork and getting approved and getting the job done, like just the general process of working with Empower?
As easy as 1, 2, 3. as long as you can read and write. I filled the paperwork out, called you a couple of times. You gave me answers that I already had on the paperwork and sent it in and got approved. And then you sent Joey up and he did the assessment and went from there.
Now, when it comes to working with different components, because there's really 3 different components in this office that customers, generally will have to deal with. One being the office, which is, generally myself. The next component being the project manager, which in your case was Joey, and the third component being the install crew. How was working with all 3 of those components?
Excellent. Yes. Everyone was just, they came in my house. They respected my house. In fact, going upstairs with the machine, they had made a little bit of mess. Of course they would have to. And they mopped my kitchen floor. I came home and I'm like, guys, what are you doing? God, I said, don't worry about that. I said, I don't expect my house to look like it did before you came in here. I said, because I really hadn't done too much because I expected a mess, but it was less than a mess. They were awesome. I would recommend your company to anyone.
Good. We appreciate that.
Yes.
So for anybody that's looking at going through the process of participating with HeatSmart Southern Tier or with the NYSERDA programs in general, the step 1 is, to sign up for, the energy assessment or to sign up for a site assessment from one of the other 2 partners for HeatSmart Southern Tier. Any of us will be able to give you a quote for whatever work it is we need to do as far as the energy, improvements go. If you're happy with the contract and the desired work, you then sign the contract so that way everything can get rolling. We'll usually, when I'm on the phone, I will pre-qualify you for any incentives or financing if I feel you're going to be eligible, and then we do the install work. Was there any part of that process for you, Pam, that maybe was not so pleasant?
Nothing. Nope, not a thing. Nope.
Right, good. Okay, well, I think I just about asked you all of my questions, so I know we have some questions from the community, and let's go look at those.
All right. Thank you very much, Pam and Jess. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
I can hear you fine.
Great. So we're going to start off with the 2 questions that came in the chat, and then we'll take some others. I see Valerie just put one in the chat as well. The first question is from Jeffrey Potent. He's asking, are there any recommendations for covering skylights at night and programs for replacing hot water heaters? So Jess, you want to take a stab at that one?
Yeah, absolutely. As far as the skylights, generally, if there's a shaft leading up through the skylight, we generally recommend having spray foam done on the outside of the skylight shaft. That does help with any heat loss going out through that skylight. As far as the other part of the question, let me go into my chat. As far as replacing hot water heaters do fall under health and safety, so NYSERDA does help with those.
Yeah, so there are heat pump hot water heaters that are available that are basically electric hot water heaters with an air source heat pump built in on top. And these are 2 to 3 times more efficient than regular electric hot water heaters. And if you're interested in those, let me know, Jeff, and we can get some information to you about that since we don't have one of our partners here that installs those. The next question is from
Thank you,
Judith.
Adam.
Sure thing. And actually, I'll say, if anyone wants to read their question themselves, feel free. So Judith, would you like to read yours or should I go ahead and do it?
You can go ahead. That's fine.
Great. In the pictures, the vertical beams are not foamed. Is that on purpose? I'm asking, as the 1850 farmhouse I'm buying had infrared pictures taken, and it is visible how they are cold, quote unquote, as the insulation is only in the walls between the beams. Wouldn't it make sense to do them too, or is that a misconception that they are actually then transmitting the cold?
That's really a misconception. As far as the beams themselves, if we were to spray foam over those beams, if for some reason there's a problem later and that foam needs to be removed, you risk damaging those beams. If you're insulating the area between them, there really is no added savings to do the beams themselves. But for anybody that's paying out of pocket, I mean, we can do whatever is tailored to, the desires and needs of the homeowner. So, I would, in the situation of the house that you're getting ready to buy, I would one question, what kind of insulation is in those walls between those beams and how old that insulation is. And then we would be able to go from there, being able to figure out exactly where the heat loss is coming from. Because if it's been properly insulated, you shouldn't really feel the coldness on those beams at all.
Great. The next question is from Valerie Dudley, one of our colleagues from Cooperative Extension of Delaware County, and she's asking what else was done besides insulating the crawl space and the attic area?
So Pam's house got pretty much the whole shebang when we submitted her job. The attic that we saw the pictures of was actually the side attic. She has a main attic up on top of her second floor. And that one I did not take pictures of because I did not want to disturb the integrity of our work or risk, any cellulose falling down, onto the second floor area. So her main attic was done, her side attic was done, her crawl space was done, as was her rim joist and her exterior walls. So, just about any area that needed to be insulated in her house, we did all of it.
Oh, that's great.
That is one of the disadvantages of energy efficiency measures is a lot of them are invisible. It's very hard to take pictures inside of walls. The best you could do is do a before and after with the infrared camera. So I appreciate the question and the answer because the impact of those is a lot less visual than a heat pump or a solar panel. At this point, we can take any other questions that folks have, and also. Oh, here we go. What is the approximate cost for doing the attic on a roughly 2,500 square foot two-story house? The one level has about 1,200 to 1,500 square feet. So I don't know if this is. Go ahead.
No, I have a decent answer for that. The price on the insulation that much square footage is really going to depend on what medium you want to go with. Do you want, the cellulose insulation? Do you want the spray foam insulation? Do you want the Spider Plus, blowout fiberglass? Everything has its own different price margin. Spray foam. And what I would recommend, especially with the spray foam, is to give me a call so I can set you up with the project managers. They'll get dimensions because the square footage may end up being a little bit different than what you're anticipating. And they would be able to give you a better choice for that as far as how much it's going to cost. So, Adam, you can either give us a call or you can, call Adam. Adam will be more than happy to send you on over my way.
Yep, and I just threw our website in the chat, and it just take you 2 minutes to go there. Go to HeatSmart Southern Tier on the site and put your information into the boxes there at nynest.org. So I did actually want to mention something connected with the heat pump question. So in the case where you qualify for either assisted home performance or empower, which means your income is either under 60 or 80% of area median income, there's actually a new program that is, the slides aren't here since we're talking about heat pumps, but it's a very generous program. They're calling it a study because there's not a lot of money, and they're trying to learn what is going to be the most effective way to get heat pumps into the homes of low and moderate income homeowners. But when you take into account the money that's available through Empower or assisted home performance and then the study, the amount that you'd have to finance, depending on whether it's ground source or air source, would be a lot less than the gross cost number that Pam had mentioned. So I guess one thing I would really encourage, and I think she pretty much says this, before you make a decision, get an assessment. Make sure you know what's best for your home and what the costs are for you personally and your home. Because for income eligible programs, and yes, it's based on, I think it's based on, I should know the answer to that. Is LMI based on net or gross income, Jess?
It's based on gross, and it's the actual gross, not the adjusted gross that you'll see on your taxes. It's based on the actual gross.
Thank you. So yeah, just to encourage people to sign up for whatever assessments you want to get. They don't cost you anything, but maybe a little bit of time. And the reality is, with the announcement that I passed on earlier about divestment of fossil fuels, New York State is moving away from fossil fuels of all kinds fairly rapidly. And so when you're considering replacing your heating and cooling equipment, you should really take a very close look at heat pumps before making a decision, so as not to be stuck in a potentially expensive cul-de-sac down the road. Any other questions from our participants? And I'll also say, while we're waiting for that, if either Pam or Jess have any other points that you'd like to make additionally to what we've already talked about, please go ahead.
Well, I've got a couple of points. First of all, I live alone, and I've got children, okay? And they're all adults, and everybody's got an answer or a question for me. Like, they don't think I can handle my own finances because I'm old, guys, okay? Even though I still do work part-time if I have a job. I work for the airlines, and I've been laid off now. But anyway, with that being said, get 2 quotes. I didn't get 2 quotes. I called and spoke with Jess. She made me feel like we'd known each other forever, and it just went on and on from there. I didn't get another quote, and I was very, very happy. And then Joey came up, and as it turned out, he knew my grandson. My grandson said he's good people, Grandma. So that was that. They answered everything I had to ask about the insulation man. Secondly, when they were all done with the job, I said, or my son-in-law said, well, when they put that insulation in your side walls, they're going to cap it with white, nail covers. But you're not going to see them. You'll see the white against your siding. And I'm like, what? So I didn't ask when they were doing the work. When they got done, and they had pulled out of the driveway, I'm like a little kid. I ran outside, and I looked, and I'm like, I don't see anything. So I think, Jess, I called you, and I said, did they insulate the sides of the house? And you said, oh, yeah. And remember I said to you, well, how did they do that? And you said they took the siding off, parts of the siding, and then they put it back on?
Yep, and that's exactly what we do when we're doing exterior walls and we're doing them from the outside. We remove 1 course of siding all around the house for each level that we have to do. So your house being 2 stories, we would remove 1 course of siding from the first floor level and 1 course of siding from the second floor level. So we take that course of siding off, we'll drill a hole in through the sheeting, it gets dense packed, we fill that hole with a wood plug and we caulk around it to seal it off from any elements from outside. And we put your siding up. And by the time the siding goes up, it should look like nothing was even ever disturbed.
Exactly. Yes.
So I really appreciate those additions, Pam. I think there's some important takeaways there. First one is don't judge people based on age, even if it's your relative. Second one is this is a local company, and you know that we really, when we're vetting companies, we care about that. This is also a company that's been in business for a long time. They've been in business since the 90s. And so, you know, it's not unusual that a company that's been in business for that long, that, you know, they have a wide circle of friends and acquaintances, and may end up being that you know somebody, or you know somebody that knows somebody that works there or has had work done.
Right. Yes.
And I guess the last thing is that unless the person you're getting advice from is either in the business right now, and by the business I mean doing exactly what the insulation man is doing, which is insulating homes and businesses using spray foam and cellulose, take the advice with a grain of salt. There's a lot of people out there in construction, and you know, some of them know all about this stuff. Others say things and they don't necessarily know. The second thing I'd say is, particularly with technologies like heat pumps, information from 5 years ago is ancient history, both in terms of the capabilities of the technology and also the cost. So that's just one other reason to get an assessment before you make judgments. You wouldn't probably buy a car without trying it out and going into the dealer and finding out what they can do for you in terms of finance, right? You're not going to just go online and buy a car. So with a house, that's an even bigger investment, because, you know, your car you may have for, you know, 5, 10, 15 years. Your house, you're going to have a lot longer than that.
Now, Adam, do you live in town or out of town?
I live in Vestal. I am coming to you from just south of Binghamton University. Obviously, we're not in our offices mostly these days. So yeah, I've lived here. I've lived here a long time. I've lived here since the 60s.
Oh, okay. And I heard you say that you bought a house that was really old.
I didn't buy a house. This house was my parents' house, and it's certainly nowhere as old as yours, but it is from the 1950s, and it was built by two builders. It's a beautiful house in some ways, but they did some really crazy things. And, you know, back in those days, record keeping was a little bit sketchier, and there is no building permit on file. So I've had to sort of seat of the pants figure out a few things, but I did get, I used to heat with oil, and I did get a geothermal system installed about 9 years ago, as well as I had a lot of insulation put in by the insulation man 2 owners ago. The founder, Pat Dundon, sold it to Dave Curry, and then Dave retired. And now this is a women-owned business entirely, which is great, because this is an area of work where you can make a pretty decent living. It's hard work, but you can make a pretty decent living. And, you know, it's the kind of thing that'd be good for all kinds of folks to be able to go into. We need more and more people in the field. So yeah, I got a geothermal system put in because my oil costs were crazy.
Well, I just got an oil delivery, and I don't know if I told you earlier, it was $2.04 a gallon. I mean, I don't think that's bad. It was up to way up over $3 a gallon.
Yeah, that is a good price. But it was actually like $4.05 a gallon in 2008 when I decided to move to geothermal.
Yes.
And that's one of the advantages of moving to electric, because electric costs certainly go up and down, but the increases and decreases are much gentler. Whereas the price spikes for propane and oil, especially, but even gas, right? I think it was back in 2015, we had a big price hike in natural gas because we had a very cold winter and there was a lot of demand. So it's, you know, heat pumps are good for a number of reasons. I talked about the health improvements in terms of not having anything combustible on site for your heating. They also give you heating and cooling for the price of one one or more units depending on what you need. So in the summertime, I'm
Mhm.
getting my air conditioning close to free, just the cost of the pumps and the blowers. And then it also helps you predict your costs a lot more. But on the other hand, it needs to work for you financially. But I think the thing to do is look at, well, what are you spending right now to heat and cool your house over the course of a year? And then after incentives, what's the month-to-month payment and the payment over the course of the year to get yourself a heat pump? And if those things line up in a way that you can afford, then it's something I would strongly advise.
Adam, I have a couple of other
Right.
questions.
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, thanks. This is Jeff again. I had a NYSERDA audit at least 10 years ago, and to be honest, it was not as thorough as it could have been. Can I qualify for another audit at this point, or once you've had it, you're no longer eligible?
So
Give me a
technically,
call because they're,
yeah, go ahead, Jess.
okay. Yeah, I was going to say, give me a call because the way New York State has it set up is they would not fund another NYSERDA audit for you, but they do have market rate audits, and you can have a billion of those if you wanted to. They haven't really put any kind of guidance down. So we could definitely get another audit done for you. It's just a matter of, do I put it under, the green jobs audit for NYSERDA, or do I put it under the market rate audit for NYSERDA? So, I mean, there's definitely options, and another one could be done.
Got it, thanks. And one last question, it's a solar question. Adam, you might be able to answer it. I have a photovoltaic system that I put on my house about 5 years ago, and I want to put more panels up. Would I qualify for any of the existing programs to add panels, or is that only for people putting solar on for the first time?
I will give you a qualified answer because I'm nearly positive that yes, you would, but I would want to verify that. So I have the suspicion we may have your information, but if you want to either, I'll put my my email address in the chat here, and if you want to send me a message, then I can get back to you. I'll be able to confirm that pretty quick.
Great, thank you. I really appreciate that.
Yep, sure thing. One thing, unfortunately, you can't do is, let's say that you have no more space, but you want to offset increased use because you got a heat pump or an electric vehicle or something. You can't, in this state, have on-site solar and also sign up for community solar. And for those who don't know, community solar is when you are receiving credits on your bill from a big solar array that is not on your property, right? And the program that the project that we are affiliated with has a 20% discount, which is the deepest one in the state, as far as I know. But the way regulations are structured right now in New York, you pretty much have a one shot. You can either do community or you can do on-site. You can't do both. In Massachusetts, you can do both. So that's something that may change, but right now it does not. So yeah, I'll get back to you on that, Jeff. Are there other questions?
Thank you.
Sure thing. So anything else, Jess, anything else that you'd like to add?
No, I mean, I think I'm, pretty
I'm
good
going
with where
backwards.
we're at right now. And, I just want to say thank you to Pam for being with us. Like I said, it's been so great, you being willing to, come in and do this with us. We definitely appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
Well, let me echo that, Pam. It's very, very kind of you to take the time to do this. Hopefully, it won't be too long before you're flying the friendly skies again.
I hope. I'll tell you. They're talking. What's that old saying? Poop runs downhill, and now with this second band of this virus going around, I don't know. One thing, whenever I meet my pilots, they'll say, "Boy, you're really senior, aren't you?" And I always say, "What, senior with the company?" "Oh, yes." And I said, "But I am senior in both ways, the company and my age, So I pray every night that God keeps us flying."
Well, my philosophy is that you decide yourself what your age means to you. And if you decide that you're going to just do all the things you enjoy doing, then you just do that. So before we finish up, just a reminder that our next two webinars are going to be in the new year. The first on the 13th, clean heating and cooling, heat pumps, energy efficiency, the whole nine, with all of our partners, including Jess here from the Insulation Man. And then on Thursday, our last program of this series, the Air Source Heat Pump Virtual Home Tour with Air Source LLC. That's an Oxford home in Shenango County. Want to really thank Jess Picard from the Insulation Man. She's put in a lot of time working with us, and I think it's probably worth it. We've gotten some clients over to them, and just really appreciate your work. Want to also give a shout out to Haley Delisle, who is behind the scenes running Zoom. And I want to thank you all for coming, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. You as well.
Thank you, Adam.